guys, it's MJ. How are you? So today I want to talk about the energy of support and how ultimately the true support that we access is from within self, because our true empowerment is a recognition that we are the totality of our perception. You know, what we see is what we vibrate, is what we are. And so ultimately, it's in our own ability to support self. It's on our own ability to feel secure in the beingness that we are, with all of our flaws, with all of our awesomeness and our polarity, right? So when we, as an individuated aspect of consciousness, when we as individuals can really own the totality of our own unique expression, we in and of ourselves support self, because we're no longer seeking approval, validation, and support from other. So here is just an awareness that's coming through for me as far as how we are engaging with one another from the standpoint of self-responsibility. So we might, through conditioning, through social conditioning, feel like the goodness of who we are is in our ability to support people, to help people, to assist people. To sometimes we even might think we want to fix people, you know? Now, this is tough, right? Energetically, emotionally speaking. And I had the same thing at some point of like wanting to save the world and wanting to change and da 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 da. And I remember having a friend reflect back to me, they're like, well, isn't that a little arrogant? You know, you talk about seeing the world as this divine and wonderful place, and yet you're going around talking about how your high and mighty self should be fixing people. And here, now this is from A Course in Miracles. What we have to recognize is that if we're perceiving an emotion as negative, if we're looking at someone and being like, oh my God, you're so sad, and then we feel all this pain, but we think that pain is the other person's pain, then we're not actually honoring our own pain. So this is the double edge of like thinking we're like, I'm supposed to be strong and I'm supposed to be this supporting pillar, I'm supposed to be this epic healer, and yet we're constantly pushing our own projections onto other. And so we create the image of other people needing our support. We create the image of, you know, these poor people and they need my help and they need my service to make myself feel validated or to make myself feel valuable. And that's ultimately what subtle threads of our own unworthiness density creates, is these subtle ways we kind of want to hook in to other people's energies to feed a deeper wound of unworthiness. And it is sensitive, you guys, because trust me, feeling our emotions is like the big taboo that nobody wants to really do. And I can see it over and over again of people wanting this feeling and people wanting all of this love and all of this light and all of this sense of success and all of this feeling of abundance, and people want this sort of shiny radiance, but when it comes down to it, actually doing the inner work, actually feeling and healing, rather than powering on and powering through and just jumping to the next person to fix so that I don't have to heal, is bypassing the healing. And so we talk about like, you know, I'm just here to hold space, but I'm able to hold space when I do retreats and when I work with clients. I hold space for people to be where they are because I have been practicing for years and years and years being responsible for myself and holding space for my own emotional transformation. Okay, and being guided on a spiritual sense where I was guided to do retreats, to host and hold space. I didn't try to get this job. It happened naturally because of how I vibrate within myself, because of how I hold space and handle and heal in myself. And that's the reflection. For me, doing shares like this is is a little bit next level and intense, because I recognize with that level of clarity, we instantaneously will reflect back someone else's unworthiness and pain. And if they're not able to truly hold space, then it starts to get really, really confusing. And that's when you know a very subtle level of manipulation is happening, a subtle level of someone trying to hook in, because they're, again, maybe unconsciously, they're wanting something. They're wanting some kind of hook, but then because there's the unrecognizable fear, they're saying one thing. So I just want to be this, and I just want to be that. But then if you don't fit in to what they're unconsciously seeking, then their rational mind is like, well, I don't know what's going on, because they're not able to hold space and be responsible for their own feelings. And collectively speaking, this emotional work is more challenging for men. Men have bigger egoic pillars in place because we live in a so-called male-dominated world, and men are supposed to provide, and men are supposed to support, and men are supposed to be these pillars of support for us weak and delicate women who can't work and I know, you guys, you might think I'm joking or like, oh, that's like ancient times, but we still live in a systematic indoctrination of men are strong, men don't feel, men don't cry, and women are these historical weak little things. And I'm afraid that's just not the case. There's no way for us to say this is man, this is woman. At this point in our human history, what we have to recognize is every single one of us is a divine aspect of consciousness, and a very unique aspect of consciousness. So comparing ourselves, trying to fit into some model of what a woman looks like, or what a man looks like, or how we're supposed to be with one another. And this is where it's really important for us, if we are sensitive truly, if we are feeling truly, then get clear of what your energy is and what someone else's energy is. Because as far as law of attraction goes, guys, and everything's vibration, if someone's being themselves and that is like making us feel like weird and not then we need to focus on ourselves. And that's something that I'm having to learn as an empath, is like, I can go so far, and then if there's a sense of confusion, if there's a sense of lack of clarity, I have to pull away. Because when someone doesn't want to really heal, there will be confusion. If someone's not really equipped to be taking responsibility for their own emotions, there will be confusion. If you're someone like me, who's been doing this work for years and years and years. And the flip here is that my pattern is to give my power to other people and try to, own their emotions as well as my own, and transform that, and take all the responsibility and transform all of that, and then just keep showing up and keep shining light. And what shifted for me is that I can no longer tolerate that, because I know my intuition, because I know myself. So my own self, my own inner knowing of my truth is unwilling to, I can hold space, guys, and I can love, but I'm not willing to spend time like trying to figure someone else out. That's not my job. If someone can be just clear, fine. And I'm also really aware of like the spiritual glossiness of our desire to just have like light, fluffy encounters. And that's wonderful. And we can have lots of those. But there again, that to me is very two-dimensional. It's like, we want to engage, we want these happily ever after, but there again, there's a lot of inner work that goes into having this shiny expression and having this level of clarity. And if we're not there, we're not there. If we don't feel that clarity, we don't feel that clarity. If we don't feel that level of support in ourselves, we're just not there. And ultimately, we can think, I just want everything to be light and fluffy, but if you're not feeling light and fluffy in your encounters, then you're not there. And putting it on somebody else, like it's their fault that this isn't a light and fluffy conversation, or it's the other person's fault that this isn't going how I want it to go. They're not behaving how I want them to behave. And so I can make false claims, but then when they don't behave how I want them to behave, I don't know how to show up for them. So be really mindful of the words people use versus like the energy behind the words. And trust yourself as an empath, as a sensitive person. You know, what are we carrying from our past and projecting onto our present? You know, be really mindful of those kind of energies, especially if we've been carrying energies of victimhood. You know, that we start to re-engage with a clear reflection, but then all these old energies start coming back. So be really aware of how you're interpreting other people. You know, because if you're the one who's feeling lots of different emotions, those are the emotions that you need to sit with and be with, and not be putting your emotional density onto other people. You know, if there's a feeling, it's yours. Sorry, you know, like that's just how it is, right? If I have a feeling and I have to own it and hold space for myself, like that takes a lot of work and energy and discipline to be able to hold space like that. So to suddenly have, you know, people being like, you know, let's hold space, let's share and connect and exchange. But then when I do share, when I do exchange, that like, no, but not like that. So there you guys have it. That's a very vulnerable and honest share about where I'm at in as far as engaging, and why I have to be really clear with you guys that if you want my time and if you want my energy and if you want to engage with me, then you can book a session. Otherwise, if there's a lack of clarity, I have to just say straight up, you guys, I'm not going to be able to respond to all the messages. I'm not going to be able to, you know, necessarily offer you what you think you want from me, because what you see through this screen is one aspect of my totality. Behind the screen, you guys, I feel a lot. I spend a lot of time in solitude. People judge that as well. I can feel sometimes that people like feel bad for me, or people they like think it's sad. But the truth is, you guys, I'm really happy. Like, I'm a natural introvert and I like spending lots of time on my own, and it's part of how I'm able to show up like this is because I spend time like digging it out. And you know, I'm not here to use any of you, and I'm not here to gain anything from you. I'm literally just like this random small town girl who's kind of weird and has these cool perspectives that have really helped me as a hardcore empath and sensitive person. They've helped me become a happier being, and they've actually helped me to become more successful in the world because of the clarity that I've found within myself by getting to know myself. So there's a lot of beauty here, you know, and there's a lot of love here, and there's a lot of connection to the divine. And it's a really beautiful space. But it's not all light and fluffiness, you guys. I know we all want that. And we're all sold that in the world. You know, we're all sold this idea of like an ideal life. And yeah, we do. We have ebbs and flows. Sometimes we're there and sometimes we're not. But wanting to contain our relationships, encounters in a like, again, just one polarity. So wanting to say, well, I want to engage and have a relationship, but I just want it to be like nice. Great. Enjoy that. Enjoy your nice exchanges. Personally, there's always gonna be shades. There's always gonna be density and stuff that we're working on in ourselves. And again, if we don't want to go there, we don't want to go there, and that's fine. You know, you're allowed to be exactly who you are. There's never pressure. There's never, you know, it's only ourself. That's the thing. We're only ever limited by our own mind, by our own energetic fears that we then unconsciously project onto the world and onto other people, you know. And there again, having worked through a lot of density and fear, It's clear to me. That's the difference as well. Like, I'm not even necessarily confused about this stuff. It's very clear. You know the difference between your own energetic triggers and someone's projection. There's a very, it's kind of subtle, but once you get used to practicing with it, it's clear, because your core energy center is inside of you. When you're solely attuned to that, when you're really just listening and attuning to your core energy center, which is the expression of the totality. So our core energy center is the all-knowing self. Really, it's that simple. We are the all-knowing self. We connect to the core. So when I'm attuned fully to the core, I can feel the difference of like a clear reflection versus someone's projections, because energetically that's what it feels like. It literally feels like someone's going like dumping on you, and it's obvious when there's conflict, because their words say one thing but the energy says something different. So the words might say, you know, availability and support, but the actions, and then when that's actually addressed as or, you know, reflected back, is that truth, you know, support and this and that, and then there's all this like, oh, not this, but not this way, but I want it that way, and da-da-da. So you can see that there's conditions attached. And there again, if there's conditions attached, it means that there's core density wounds that still need healing to not have these unconscious threads seeking to hook in to someone else's energy for support, ultimately, right? That's the interesting thing. That's the paradox about all this, that we say like, oh yeah, let's fix each other. Well, if we think there needs fixing out there, then we still need fixing inside, you know. And that's part of the process of sharing, of like, I have these really cool insights, and like, I really love myself and I really love my life, and I've come a really, really long way, and I do this as a job. I vlog and I coach people, which is really just like me loving people. And I host retreats and I do yoga, but I'm not some guru. I'm not some like perfect person. I just have done a lot of inner work, and I have an interesting perspective, which has brought me a lot of love and clarity in my life, and so I feel like that can be of service. There's a lot of people who don't agree with what I do. There's people that when I moved from being a yoga teacher to being an author, you know, people in my community sort of cut me out. Like, you can talk about yoga, but you can't talk about self-love, or you can talk about meditation, but I don't really want you talking about self-responsibility. Like, seriously, guys. I had like friends and like professional friends doing that. Like, yeah, but can you just keep it to the yoga and not talk about consciousness and not talk about self-responsibility and not talk about emotions? So that's where, you know, again, that this platform, you guys see one aspect of me, but me behind the scenes, like day to day, showing up and owning and transforming and letting go, and like seeing the lack of clarity or feeling into clarity, it's profound, especially as a woman in this world, where I have to own and also share with you guys that what I recognize as part of my programming, up until like very recently, really seeing that program being acted out, is that like, I just would give energy, make it all nice, want to give to everybody, you know, give my body, give my energy, give my resources, invest in whoever that man was in my life, and just give my energy away until I would have nothing left. Or I would kind of say, stand in my power and say, no, I want to live like this. And then oftentimes, and then when, ultimately what's happened in my experience is that as I've really stepped into my power, I can just see, I'm still working through threads of how I'm seeing my past self. So I was watching myself act out in these ways in a very conscious way, and then having to heal. And seriously, guys, like the last year of healing has been the most fucking gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching, like broken. And like, that's just being straight up, but in a really loving and compassionate way, guys. I'm not asking for your support or fixing. I'm just honestly saying, I'm broke on every level, and I'm totally fucking cool with that. That's the fucking beauty of this shit, you guys. Like, I have nothing to hide. nothing to hide, because I'm not trying to get anything from this world. I'm literally just practicing cleaning myself out so that I can be as light-filled and love-filled as possible. That's it. That's the mission. People can either do that in their lives or not, because you won't stick into this, you won't energetically vibrate this unless you're loving yourself, unless you're doing that work. And that's how this stuff is. And the more, the deeper I go, the more I'm just like, this is big, this is deep. I know I might have like a pretty face and I might joke around a lot, but up until now, like these 35 years, guys, I've been on a fucking mission, and I've transformed and sat in a lot of misery and despair and discomfort, emotional discomfort. And I've spent a lot of time by myself researching and studying the teachings of what is this existence and reality, and how do we optimize it in truth. And what I came to in a really intensive 15-year research, study, self-discovery, self-study, external study, was that there's no bypassing it. No pill, no person, no job, no amount of money, nothing outside of you as creation is going to lead you to liberation. No doctor, nothing, no system, no whatever. Healing and rising into a more light-filled expression is all inside you. And I hate to bring the bearer of bad news, but it's in your emotional body. We have to start feeling. We have to start knowing the core essence of the truth of who we are, and stop trying to fix each other, and stop trying to tell each other how to be and what to do and what to say. And recognize, especially in the spiritual conscious communities, recognize that if you're talking about all this stuff, you have to practice it too. You have to embody it. And the more of us who actually embody it, the easier it is to kind of call out where that's not being done, right? Because if we're getting offended and going back into our victim stories, we're not owning it. We're not owning it. We're making it still about everybody else. Everybody else is out to get me, and everybody else wants a piece of me, or whatever, you know? So there you guys. Thank you. Just thank you. Like you have no idea how much the truth of who you are, regardless of who you are or where you are, is a guiding light for me. I love being able to work like this, and I appreciate every single encounter. Honestly, even when you might think I'm in like a negative vibe, it's just me. I'm used to holding space for myself, so I'm not afraid of my own fear and darkness, you see. But what I do want to offer is love yourself, support yourself, heal from within self. Don't go looking. Don't go sharing of yourself either if you're not there, if you're not really truly in honor of who you are. Don't try to honor someone else if you're not truly honoring who you are. Thanks for listening, you guys. I appreciate you. I love you. And I'm just seeing you in the light.